Hello everyone, welcome to Asura Psych, and today I'm going to be giving you some advice on how to use extroverted sensing healthily as an INTJ or INFJ. Now, INTJs and INFJs have repressed extroverted sensing, and this means that it's the last function in their cognitive function stack. What this also means, though, is that it's a huge part of their psyche because it pulls in the opposite direction towards the unconscious just as strongly as the dominant function does towards consciousness. So it's important for INTJs and INFJs to learn how to manage this function, or else it can really begin to cause problems for them in their life. So I'm going to give you some quick pieces of advice on how to maybe develop extroverted sensing and use it in a healthy manner. Let's get into it. So as Carl Jung mentions in Psychological Types, a type is not likely to ever come to mastery when it comes to their repressed function, and instead they must learn how to bring it to conscious awareness and learn how to deal with this function that's usually a problem area for them in their life. And to give an example of how it can be problematic to attempt to master this function, he tells the story of a thinking dominant banker type who tries to interact with his clients in a more extroverted feeling or feeling focused way. He tries to interact with them in a more friendly manner and repress that thinking dominant side of himself. And in the end, he kind of cracks and explodes on some of his clients, and it's a problem area for him. And this is kind of how he displayed that the dominant function is actually the healthy part of our psyche, and it's what's natural to us, but we have to be aware of what that repressed function is and how it's going to cause problems for us. And the idea isn't to make this repressed function entirely conscious. It's not to bring it to a level of mastery, but instead bring it to that level of awareness where we can say, maybe this is causing a problem for me. How can I deal with this without trying to become it? And that's really the difference in attempting to approach a function when trying to make it healthy instead of trying to make it more like a dominant or natural function. So extroverted sensing in the repressed slot for INTJs and INFJs is going to mirror their dominant introverted intuition. Now, introverted intuition in these two types leads them to want to attempt to find underlying meaning and concepts related to things that they're interacting with in situations that they are involved in. And what this means, though, is that at the expense of this, they're going to be ignoring the details of what the event is for what it is directly. They're going to miss the face value of situations that they're in while attempting to kind of discern or come to some sort of conclusion about the situation that they're in. And this can be problematic for the introverted intuitives because a lot of times things aren't as deep as they might think they are. INTJs and INFJs will often look for depth where sometimes there isn't really depth to be found, and they can lose themselves in trying to find this depth when in reality it's just meant to be something that is more enjoyed or interactive at face value. They're not always going to be able to kind of disassociate themselves from wanting to find that depth. Now, this is something that INTJs and INFJs are going to struggle with later on in their life, specifically if they're not able to find a way to kind of deal with this and learn how to let loose a little bit and kind of just enjoy things for what they are. I don't think INTJs and INFJs are ever going to be able to naturally just kind of engage in the moment like you might see with types who have higher extroverted sensing. But they can certainly learn to kind of appreciate the moment for what it is and kind of look to the details that need to be seen to make sure that they're getting all of the information that they need from a situation. One of the common issues of repressed extroverted sensing with the INTJ and INFJ is that many of them are going to be reluctant to try new things in the physical world. They're going to be reluctant towards new sensory experiences if it's not something that they feel like they can predict what's already going to happen. And this is because, again, introverted intuition likes to know ahead of time. It likes to see those concepts and meanings unfold over time and predict what's going to happen over time. And if they can't do that, they're going to be reluctant to want to experience new things. But this is actually counterproductive for the INTJ and INFJ types because these two types gain introverted intuition, perception, insight from engaging with things in the outer world. And if they don't allow themselves to have new extroverted sensing experiences, then they won't be able to have new introverted intuition perceptions as well. So it's extremely important for INTJs and INFJs to find healthy ways to engage in the extroverted sensing function. This doesn't mean that they have to go in a boxing ring and fight people or they have to go engage in something high octane all of the time, but there are healthy ways for these two types to go out and engage in extroverted sensing without stressing themselves too much while also allowing introverted intuition to grow alongside this repressed extroverted sensing function. So what are some healthy ways for INTJs and INFJs to interact with this repressed extroverted sensing function without pushing it over the edge? Well, there's a few good ways, and there's some that are better than others, but I think that there are some really important ones, and these are the ones that I'm going to give to you all for advice. Now, for INTJs specifically, I think this one's important, very important, but it can also apply to INFJs as well. And this is just to get out of your house occasionally. INTJs specifically are going to be able to spend a lot of time indoors. They're not going to struggle with needing people like the INFJ might, and they're able to keep themselves entertained with internet, video games, Discord, things of that nature for extended periods of time. When the INTJ is stuck inside of their house, they're not stimulating extroverted sensing in the slightest in any sort of healthy manner. At most, they're kind of just usually eating to deal with extroverted sensing, or they're maybe interacting with movie, TV, or video games to kind of falsely stimulate it. It's important for INTJs to get out of their house and truly experience some form of sensation every now and then. It doesn't even have to be every day. But doing simple things like going on a walk and experiencing the feeling of air on your body, things of that nature, are very important for INTJs. And INTJs who start to put themselves into good habits of dealing with extroverted sensing in such ways will often find that they enjoy these things and they might even want to do more in the future. One thing that I think is exceptionally healthy for INTJs and INFJs is to travel to some place that they've never been before. And I don't mean that this has to be across the world or out of country or even out of state. I just think it's really important for INTJs and INFJs to put themselves in scenarios where they can't fully predict what's going to go on all of the time, to experience new things. Because once they put themselves in those types of scenarios, not even repeatedly, but just occasionally, they're able to kind of think about things in a new perspective. They're able to process new types of information. And when the INTJ or INFJ is in these new areas with all this new stimulus, their introverted intuition is usually going to be very active. You'll often find that the introverted intuitives are most creative or most inspired after they've done something like traveling, because they feel refreshed, relaxed, and their mind is racing from all of the things that they've just recently interacted with. This is one that INTJs and INFJs are likely to struggle with, but putting themselves into healthy sensory routines related to their own body is very important in my opinion. So things related to hygiene, physical health, diet, these are all things that INTJs and INFJs are going to struggle with because they often kind of treat their body as this vessel that's carrying them around that they forget that they need to take care of. As Jung said, they forget their own bodily existence essentially. And it's important as humans to take care of your body because your body is the thing that makes you function. You can't work without it. So for INTJs and INFJs, I really recommend getting into some sort of hygiene, physical health, and diet routine. Now, routine is not comfortable for the introverted intuitive dominant types. They do not like routine in the slightest. But putting yourself on some sort of schedule where you're going to force yourself to do these healthy activities is really important in my opinion. And also, once you begin to work with extroverted sensing in this way, you're often able to see great results in your health that are going to make you more confident as an individual. For me, I started with weight loss. As some of you may know, I used to weigh 300 pounds. I lost about 120 pounds, and I feel much better now. And it was getting into everyday sensing routines that helped me get through that. Did I enjoy doing those sensory routines? No, not in the slightest. I kind of ate the same thing for weeks at a time. But it helped me get healthier. It helped me become a better person. And it's also what spurred me into going into college and getting my life together overall. So I think it's very important for INTJs and INFJs to just make sure that they're taking care of their body. Because if you take care of your body, your mind is going to function better and you're going to feel better about yourself overall. My next piece of advice is going to seem maybe counterproductive towards the last few pieces of advice, but it's to make sure that you're not overdoing extroverted sensing. And this can mean a lot of different things. Attempting to try and master extroverted sensing by forcing yourself into high sensory activities right off the bat is going to be something that might be problematic. And this is why I recommend things like travel, because traveling allows you to engage in new extroverted sensing activities, but don't force you to be on the spot in the moment like you might see with, say, an ESFP and the types of activities that they enjoy. If you're going to some super loud concert or forcing yourself to go to crowded areas to engage in extroverted sensing, you're often going to find that you're going to become stressed and neurotic because these are not healthy, expressive ways for INTJs and INFJs to express their extroverted sensing function or to grow it. Instead, it's better for INTJs and INFJs to interact with extroverted sensing in a calm, relaxed manner, something that's going to allow them to experience new things without forcing themselves to be in the moment in a really direct and harsh way. Now, you might find that NI dominants will enjoy things like martial arts, because martial arts tend to be short burst, high octane extroverted sensing activities. These types of things where they can kind of go in and out of using extroverted sensing in this very intense way for a short period of time. And those types of activities are generally pretty healthy for the introverted intuitive, as long as they're able to deal with them in an appropriate manner. But it's important for the introverted intuitive dominant type to not try to force themselves into too high of sensory experiences before they're comfortable with dealing with those types of situations. And some introverted intuitives, to be honest, are never really going to have that level of comfort with sensory experiences. There's going to be many INTJs or INFJs who don't like going to concerts. They don't like going to bars. They don't like going to places where there's just so much going on that they can't predict all of the time. And that's not something that I would blame on them. And that might not just be something that they're comfortable dealing with. But I think that there is ways that these types can find healthy middle grounds between what they enjoy and what's maybe healthy for them. Speaking of unhealthy extroverted sensing, it's important for INTJs and INFJs to remember to try and not overindulge in temporary extroverted sensing pleasures. This can be anything from like food to alcohol, sexual pleasures, drugs, anything like that that's going to give them that quick hit of being in the moment and experiencing something for face value, that immediate kind of sensory pleasure. Now, these things are, for the most part, some of them, aren't terrible if you're doing them in short moderation, like such as having a nice meal every now and then or having the occasional drink. But if you're doing these things all of the time to kind of escape your introverted intuition perceptions or to maybe even put yourself in the kind of mindset where you're able to relax, that's going to be a problem area for you. And it's important as an introverted intuitive dominant to set standards and limits with these types of things so you can grow healthily as an individual. All right, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this discussion on repressed extroverted sensing and the INTJ and INFJ personality types and growing it into more of a healthy function. My main takeaway for this video is that if you are an introverted intuitive dominant type, remember to take things slowly when it comes to extroverted sensing. You're not going to be able to master this function right off the bat. It's not going to be something that's super easy for you. It's going to take time to learn how to deal with and work with this extroverted sensing function. Start with simple things like travel and setting good routines for yourself, and then maybe work your way up to more high-octane types of activities where you can really start to engage with the extroverted sensing in a more direct manner. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know down in the comment section below, and also feel free to share any advice you have for other INTJs on how they can develop and use their extroverted sensing in a healthy manner. I would like to remind everybody that I do have personality typing sessions available at my website, asurapsych.com, if you're interested in working with me to find out what your personality type is and what that means for you. This has been Asura from Asura Psych. Have a good one.